Hey guys, here today with another Shirogorov knife. Today we have in front of us the Sigma. Now the Sigma is a Dmitry Sinkevich design. The knife, at least the version that we have here, was part of a 200-piece run. The lottery opened up, I believe, in early 2017, if I can remember correctly. And of course, like all other collaborations between Dmitry Sinkevich and the Shirogorov workshop, it's based off of a full custom knife that Dmitry had done a few years prior. So the Sigma is actually a very interesting knife, and actually when it first came out, it wasn't the most popular collaboration that the workshop had done. But as of recent, has becoming much more popular, and I believe there's been some renewed interest in it as well, as for the design and for some of the benefits that the knife provides over other knives in its size range, which we'll go over in today's video. But first, let's talk about the specs, because the specs on this knife are actually quite interesting. First thing I'm going to do is do a size comparison. I think this is one of those knives where a size comparison actually really makes a lot of sense here. I don't have a 111, but I do have an F95 size knife. I also have a Stellar here, and I also have a Neon. And if you take a look, you can see that the Sigma is larger than all of them. If I remember correctly, we're looking at an 85 millimeter blade length here, 90, 95, and the workshop calls it 100 millimeters on the blade length here. But of course, all those numbers I just mentioned are relative to the way that they measure the blades, which I think starts at this point here out to the tip. Most people in the rest of the world kind of measure it based off of the cutting length. And when we take a look at it here, you can see that the F95 is pretty much spot on at 4 inches. This one's looking at a little bit, I want to say 4 1/8 inch of cutting length here. So much more, a little bit more cutting length compared to the full-sized F95 knife. Of course, this is not as big as the 111, which has 111 millimeters according to the workshop. But given that larger blade size, what does that mean for the weight? Well, taking a look here, you can see that the knife weighs at 3.14 ounces. So a little bit over 3 ounces, incredibly light knife for its size. You take a look at the newer revision Hotties here. This one does have a thin blade for the show Hottie, so even that, you're looking at a full solid ounce more. Given the thin blade stock, I think that does balance out with the bronze backspacer. The F95 Zero is pretty much around 5 ounces as well. So given the slightly larger blade length, this knife is extremely light for its size, which again is one of those reasons that I think there's been renewed interest in it, despite its, outwardly plain appearance at first. But let's go over the appearance of the knife actually. You can see here that this has kind of a sloping blade profile. Really wouldn't call it a Persian, but very, very interesting blade profile, and something that I would definitely expect to see from Dmitry's side for designing stuff as opposed to Sergei's. Let's see here. Taking a look at the blade closely, you can see we have a very flat stonewash finish here in that refined pattern with a full flat grind on the blade. You can see here that the blade also has a curve up here at the top that kind of curves inward and then also curves again here at the tip. The tip is a very fine point, and combining the full flat grind with that very thin edge that the Shirogorov workshop likes to do, really, really nice, simple looking blade here. We have the logo of both of the designers, and also blade jimping up here on top. This is full blade stock thickness of 4 millimeters of M390. You can see the blade steel is marked here on the pivot area, something that we see similarly on Sergei's customs as well as the newer collaboration. So I think this is actually the start of the blade steel being marked on here, at least for the non-customs. You can also see here that this is using MRBS. One thing to note is that it seems that the logo that Dmitry uses is slightly different than what Sergey does. You can see here that the triangle for the MRBS logo is facing pretty much straight down. The font is the same, but when you compare it to what the logo that Sergey uses, you can see that the logo Sergey uses is slightly turned. Really, really minor detail, but something that I've noticed pretty much every single time that I've seen the MRBS iteration. Here you can see it's not even pointing down, it's kind of facing to the right. So very, very interesting how Dmitry and Sergey do their logos differently. I don't think it's different every single time, and if I remember correctly, all of Dmitry's logos have been pointing down, but very interesting. Another point here for the blade is the flipper tab, just how low profile it is. Kind of going along with the svelte appearance and weight and large size of the knife, we also have a flipper tab that is meant to be non-obtrusive. This is pretty much the start of the trend that Dmitry has been doing. This knife being released in 2017. We've had the Pero that came out a few years afterwards, and also the Kami. All three of these knives having a very low profile flipper tab. For many people, it was a little difficult to actuate on some of the knives, especially the Kami and the Pero, but the Sigma, because the flipper tab is much more in line vertically with the pivot compared to the Kami and the Pero, which had them much more forward. The Sigma has still a very good flip where the D10 is not extremely hard. And I think even people who are not familiar with the very low profile flipper tab Dmitry's been doing, and people who have even had trouble with the Pero and the Kami will be able to flip this okay. So if that's a concern with you, if you have problems, especially with the new Kami, I would not be so worried about this knife because of that pivot, the flipper tab placement in relation to the flipper tab being much more vertical than forward. Moving on to the handle here, you can see that the handle is a very large piece of contoured carbon fiber. If you take a look here, it flares out as we go towards the butt of the handle, and it has an incredibly nice feel in the hand, something very unique. And the shape really didn't strike me as something that would be very comfortable in the hand at first, but this is really something that when you hold, even with the large handle and my smaller hands, it not only does it fill the hand out well, but even given my smaller hands, it still feels right. The flipper tab acts as kind of a guard here that a traditional flipper tab does, because the handle is cut so much higher here, and the contouring on the handle both on the top and the bottom really make for a comfortable feel in the hand. So really excellent ergos here. The carbon fiber itself is normal weave carbon fiber. We do have this beautiful milling pattern here, kind of a very organic waves and multiple sets of waves as well. It really reminds me of that Van Gogh painting, Starry Night. God, I hope I remember that correctly, otherwise I just sound like a dumbass. But anyways, a really, really interesting pattern here. Kind of almost looks like a fingerprint from far away, but really adds to the tactile feel of the carbon fiber as well. Taking a look at the hardware here, we have completely unique hardware for the knife. It's all titanium hardware. You can see here that we have blue anodization on the ring here on the inside. And taking a look at the other side here, we can see that we have the Sinkevich tri-lobe screws. I found that now that I'm doing this video in 2022, I found that the original Sinkevich double-sided bit works the best, comparing that to the new one that has come in the CCKS 2021 Cyber Tool. That one was a little bit of a looser fit. However, using the Sinkevich double-sided bit, you'll have a little bit of trouble taking this one off because of the rear screw, the clip here. So you actually will need to use the one from the Cyber Tool. Basically, huge clusterfuck situation. Dmitry has had several iterations of these tri-lobe screws, and they all are slightly different. Fortunately for me, I have all of the screws, all the bit drivers. If anybody needs help taking apart the knives, feel free to send me a message, and I can help you out, and perhaps maybe figure out a way for you to clean your knives and maintain them, which I think is very important. But anyways, going off on tangent here, I want to talk about the clip a little bit more. This clip really was unimpressive to me at the beginning, but after seeing the knife in hand, I've grown to appreciate it a little bit more. As you can see here, it looks like a bent, clip, flat clip, but it is actually completely milled. It's very intentional that it was done to look like a flat clip, but as you can see here, there are even multiple cuts for relief, kind of similar to what we see on lock bars for the leaf cuts. So there's one here on the first bend, and then there's another one here on that second bend. So completely 100% CNC clip, and you can even see the carbon fiber raised up to create a flat surface for the clip to interface with. For the backspacer, we have a very thin piece of blue anodized titanium. There is a lanyard hole back here, very thin, very small. I don't think it would be possible to get any kind of normal width paracord through this. You might need to use a thinner, thickness of paracord to get it to clear here. But I have seen one Sigma, or I know one owner who has managed to put a lanyard on theirs successfully. Moving on to the inside of the knife, you can see just how thin the backspacer is. The backspacer does protrude a little bit off of the front of the backspacer area here. And also notice how the carbon fiber actually moves inwards to match with the lines of the backspacer so that the backspacer can be made thinner. I think that's such a great move, trying to minimize the amount of metal and maximize the usage of carbon fiber in here. Lastly, we can talk about the lock mechanism. You can see here that it is a titanium sub-inset lock here. There is a steel lock bar insert that is press fit and glued. And here you can see that there are 4 posts that index and secure the sublock to the handles of the knife. 2 of them are just titanium pins that are epoxied into the show side of the carbon fiber, the side of the carbon fiber. And there are actually 2 screws that, as you can see here, are hidden underneath the clip, one here and one here as well. So a very secure and aesthetically pleasing method to securing the sub-inset lock. And also taking a look here on the inside, you can see the screw for the clip here as well, since the clip is blind screwed, obviously. Now the pivot, again, is MRBS. This is 2 rows of ball bearings. The race looks similar to what you see on the Neons, which also have a 2-row MRBS as opposed to the 3-row on the full-size knives. I believe that the Shirogorov website says that it is a 3-row MRBS, but I have personally seen inside this knife, and it is indeed a 2-row MRBS. Probably as you can see here, the pivot is so close to the edge of the handle here, which probably explains why they were only using the 2-row version. I will note that the MRBS bearing system looks a little bit different than what I've seen with Dmitry's other bearing races. Usually for the collaborations, the bearing race will be similar to what Dmitry uses on his knives, the full customs. The Kami, for example, has the Mickey Mouse where it's kind of arranged in triangles all across the bearing race. This one has a pattern that looks similar to the Neon. So I haven't seen the full custom Sigma, but I do wonder what bearing cage that has as well. Overall, kind of to tie the points in the video back to the point that I made earlier, this knife really wasn't as popular in the beginning because of the full flat grind, the really non-exotic materials. It's just normal weave carbon fiber, blue anodized titanium. The clip wasn't especially fancy, neither was the backspacer, and of course the blade profile. But again, because of that, the knife was even trending even lower than the lottery price when it was released. But now the Sigma has been gaining appreciation with some of the more in-the-know collectors who are wanting a knife that is extremely large given its weight profile. And also something that's just very unique. I think a lot of people also have been kind of jaded by the flipper system of the more recent, Sinkevich collaboration. So having one that still has that low profile flipper tab, but flips well, I think is also a very good selling point of the knife. Overall, it's just a really nice knife to carry, if you're in your summer swing trunks and you need something that's super light that won't be dragging your pants down, but you still want that full-size knife. I think this is would fit the bill perfectly. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. Really glad to continue filling the backlog. Oh man, I always keep on forgetting to say this at the beginning, but this knife was sent in, actually, I just came back from the workshop for our spa, so I've had the opportunity here to take a look at it, and hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks again for the friend for sending this one in, and I'll see you guys next time.